Ooh, you know, Double has been, as I go into the Danish version of that there for a second, Double 61 has, been doing what Double 61 does best, and, taking home first place. But again, are those two first games really going to be a big kicker for him? Because now, as well, Lelouch, all eyes still on Lelouch, but there's a 3-point gap between him, Noel, and I believe it's going to be Coco, right, who had that 8th place finish.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Coco gave up that position at the top as a result of having such a poor previous game. So we do know that anybody is vulnerable. Lelouch, has given up part of their cushion, but not all of it. They're still ahead of the pack by 3, as you say. So they're still in pole position to become EMEA champion as of the end of the next game.
The players we're also looking at on the lower end of things, Salvi and Brix are currently the representatives that we would be sending to the Last Chance Qualifier. Brix and Sologasang are tied in points, so any of them can make their way into the automatic qualifier to the Dragonlance Championship in just 2 weeks' time. That's what's on the line for those 3. Don't need to stress themselves over the next week. Instead, focus on the preparation for that big international.
Of course, I remember last time around, Ging was the one who did go into Last Chance Qualifier and ended up doing the best out of any of the players from the EMEA in the Global Championship itself. So, it's not to be sniffed at. While it does take an extra step, the LCQ, you still can do very well, even if you don't finish top here.
I mean, Dasik here has 4 copies of Sejuani. The Sejuani reroll is not going to be the case.
Dragon Monster?
I mean, we were talking about that for a bit here, and you're talking about the Dawnbringer's Determination there. Again, it's one of the ones that you are going to be aiming to play Dacia within, but Sejuani 2 will probably be made here. Again, you have the set pair as well you probably want to hold on to. A lot of gold for Dasik alongside that consumer opener as well.
And now we're heading into the first augment round of the penultimate game of the day. And Dasik gets plenty of options.
Feeling a little guilty, perhaps, will find themselves a lot of money options. Of course, Cannoneer Crest, we did see Cannoneers being used to great effect before. He's going to be a Cannoneer Nomsy in this game, so that's a little bit more tempting than it might have been otherwise.
Yeah, just ran it last game, just got top 4, knows exactly how to play that composition. Wouldn't be surprised for him to take it, but instead, Shimmer Scale Heart.
Yeah, we've seen this before. I talked about this in our pre-show. Dasik does quite like these economy opener rights, and again, you look at the items here, they're not necessarily fantastic. There's no clear direction. A lot of really good options, but no clear commitment. And you know what? That is a very good time to go for that Shimmer Scale Heart. The issue is for him that he has to find himself either a Volibear or a Guardian Nasus, that is.
We see Lelouch coming in there, bottom of the board. Take a look, we got a Built Different coming out. Our points leader coming in with a Built Different in the second to last game of the tournament. That takes some bravery.
Well, honestly, I think it's a really smart move on the Lelouch's start. We know that a Built Different board is maybe not going to win the entire lobby. It's not a prismatic Built Different by any means, but it should guarantee at least a strong early game and a decent late game. You've got that 3-point cushion that Lelouch is sitting on right now at the top of the table. As long as they don't have a disaster for the game like Coco did, then they can probably stay on top of the table.
Yeah, top 3, top 4 placements are kind of going to be the name of the game here for Lelouch. He's just trying to maximize the gap to his competitors. That is going to be, in fact, as we are going to be looking at it, first Nomsy show up here for Lelouch. It is never going to happen again. Prodigy is going to come through, obviously, but again, just nice visual confirmation, to the people that it is in fact Cannoneer, as we've been saying.
Well, Double 61 will be very happy to see that turn up because they have picked up the Cannoneer Crest, so we do know at least one player is brave enough to look down the barrel of a cannon.
I'm looking forward to it. I love this composition. I just love Nomsy in general. And this is one, we've talked about the ins and outs of this composition a little bit, Peter. You noted that the most disappointing thing is that the ultimate in the Cannoneer just kind of doesn't do a whole lot. But with the Dark Flight, with the additional attack speed coming out from the Zeeks, your Graves, for example, your Aphelios, is going to pump out tons of damage.
And the true carry in this composition is going to be Graves, right? Yes, at the start, Aphelios will still do a good amount of damage. Nomsy just there to kind of clean up fights, kind of just, add a little bit of suppressive fire almost, as is the Graves that will be the primary holder of these really heavy carry items and the later stage of the game.
So let's, again, make a little refresher course because we are very close to the end of the regional finals here. Brix and Sologasang, they are tied on 12 points apiece. As David mentioned, we do have that spot of death at the bottom of the table, so they will be directly competing against each other. While, of course, the highfalutin, high-scoring players will be competing for the title of regional champion.
It's interesting to me that we see Brix going for this better together once more, and honestly, I think it's a good sign. We see a lot of players come into competitive, especially ones with less experience. They find that the compositions they've prepped, they know are consistent, they know are strong, don't work out for them. And instead of sticking to their guns and saying, this is what works, I know it's good, I'm just having bad games, they'll pivot off. They'll try and change the strategy. But Brix, sticking to his guns, so to speak, going to be looking potentially for that Graves composition once more, and I think it's a sign that he's calm, cool, and collected.
And at least in this game, we're not seeing the massive quantity of Better Togethers coming through again,
Yeah.
so it should be a lot easier to hit. From Noel's side of things, though, they've gotten early in it to the Shimmer scale, and they're going to be able to proc off that heart with a good front line to make sure you get some gold per round.
Yeah, and again, like, you know, 5 Shimmer Scales, generally speaking, a pretty nice place to be here, especially when the cluttered mind XP as I clutter up my mouth and clutter up my tongue here, but
Clutter butter.
you know, that is the good old-fashioned thing. We actually have like a little game. I don't know what it's called in Danish, or like in English, but like the thing where you're like you put together like a group of people, and they just like stand in a circle, and they just like intertwine each other as much as possible. And then like someone has to.
Is that just Twister?
No, that is not Twister. Because
No,
Twister,
I know what you're talking about, where you like put your arms over each other and you grab and you kind of.
Yeah.
We did it as icebreakers back when I was an RA, which is an exclusively American thing I found out. So that's gonna miss for like 90%
Yeah,
of
but
our
in
audience,
Danish we call that Kludermor.
Okay.
And that is very close to clutter.
That's now
so-
the English name for me.
Well, let us know in the chat if you happen to be informed about the
But it's still,
particular
like,
aspects
such
of
a like,
culture.
Giga comment thing, and we just cannot figure it out. But again, speaking about Giga comment situations going on the board here again, Noel will have to sell off a unit here, or the Olaf will just be sold.
Yeah, we already saw Noel, of course, picking up that Itis just at 2-3. That is a huge power spike. You see the Determined Infestor coming in, and early Diamond's hands here will be incredibly strong as you scale into the late game. You get that invulnerability for your front line, lets your back line fire away for ages.
Like as well, this isn't a situation where Noel is on a loss streak here. So all they're trying to do is stack up the Diamond Investor, trying to get a little bit of gold out of the heart as well. That's all they need to do right now. They're building up for the later game. This Cluster Mine, as David was saying in the previous, the previous set of games, it is an economic augment of a sort. It's going to build up their economy. Oh yeah, we've got the gold coming in, we've got the XP coming in. We're building towards something better.
I think
Bad man.
once we look at this streak, I'm interested in seeing what's going on Brix's board. Because we do have some lost streaks at the bottom, but Brix is the only one still 100 streaking. If he's able to make that all the way through Krugs, he's going to be in an absolutely fantastic economic position. If he doesn't, though, the rest of the lobby will easily be able to catch up to him.
Yeah, and of course we noted Brix, along with Solo, one of those players who
What?
loves to see it. We get another Itis, though. If you can just make out those percentage chances at the bottom of the screen, you'll realize that is a little bit unlikely, though. It's not a 2-star Itis yet. We'd have to do that another time to really get the upgrade.
2% times 2% times 2%. Why not? Why not? At this point, I'd like to see it, Noel.
You can also hear the AFK pings come out, I do believe, as well. Right? But to be fair, again, with the Cluttered Mind, the economic loss of holding onto a 7-gold unit is not going to be as big as you might believe here as well. Brix, however, we were talking about it, need a strong performance. Now is going to be on the... He's at level 625 here, has the good old... Oh, 6, so should I say, and it's at 100% here. And Salvi, he's back on the good old-fashioned Kaiser with the blue buff. Again, tried and true right now.
Yeah, and of course that will be stacking up the Lagoon stacks as fast as they can. Doesn't look like Salvi is going to have too much chance of actually taking the W here, though Kaiser can be a bit deceptively strong towards the late end of the round. Salvi currently, let's see, towards the bottom of the table. In fact, they're in exactly the same position in the overall standings and in this lobby.
Let's take a look at the lobby now that everything's shaken out. Solo Gasang sitting there at the bottom on a loss streak, and Brix did, in fact, make that 100% win streak all the way through the Krug. So his economy, his board, looking incredibly strong in these early stages.
And what the thing is, Solo Gasang and Brix, they are directly, diametrically opposed to each other, and they've had the complete opposite performance in this game so far.
Just looking quickly at this overlay here, again, provided by the lovely people at BlitzCG, right? Look at the amount of jacks right now just on the board.
Yep.
And it's kind of the power of these, okay, hold on a second. We're trying to play this. We were not, but it's just 7 gold for Solo Gasang. A player that, much like Brix, needs to kind of pull himself out of a pretty poor position right now. That is something we've got to look into specifically.
All right, so we've got a few items coming in. So let's check it out economically. We can see that the money has been spent pretty liberally. Brix up at the top there with a win streak. Notable, well, we said Solo Gasang and Brix, they're kind of opposites in this lobby. Solo actually doesn't have a big loss streak, though they've got a decent amount of money in the bank.
But you look at Noel down there at the bottom half. We saw the Idases earlier on. We already know that economic engine is in play. Adding the loss streak to it as well, almost hit that 5 loss streak position. Noel is going to look to slingshot as we come out of the carousel here. Once you hit that 3-5, the 4-1 level and roll down, going to look absolutely incredible to take this game.
All right, let's see who they're up against here. So Solo Gazang up against Noel. So Solo, again, fighting from the bottom of the table. We've only got so much room for lost streaks in this lobby. So Noel doesn't have a lot of offensive firepower here to try and, to put that lost streak in any real danger. I think hoping to just kill a unit. But I think that may be just proccing at least. So we've got a little bit of gold out of the whole situation. In fact, 2 gold out, which is not bad at all when you're lost streaking.
If this is a win for Noel, I'm going to cry for Solo Gazang because this is an incredibly stacked Nidalee. All right, she will start taking things out finally.
We call it a David in these parts. I don't know if you're aware.
So I want to touch on this because it's something I've actually been preaching a little bit about, actually speaking with David. Okay.
Oh, prismatic.
I guess I'll put back in that in just a second. Right? So the thing that's worth noting here right now for Noel, we've seen some people that want to reroll their augment, which could be the case if you don't want the cybernetic shell. It's going to be incredibly hot when you're on Cluttered Mine because you are just by nature going to put in a lot of unwanted traits onto your board, which is why you'll see a lot of people just like completely just remove units from play. And you can't sell units when you are on this interface, I do believe, if I'm recalling correctly. But it's going to be the cybernetic shell. It's a very strong augment in general. If you are going to be sticking with this 5 Shimmer Scale aspect for a while, that is just quite natural and nice synergy as well. So go ahead, Matt.
I think it does mean, though, that he's going to start turning that loss streak into a win. An incredibly strong augment. Oh, think fast, coming at us.
Oh, boy.
5 more seconds here. Think fast.
Well, Doubles run out of money, though. That's the problem here. They thought perhaps not frugally enough. Well, let's see. So what have they come out of that with? They've got the Aphelios. We've got ourselves a 2-star Nomsy. It's not exactly the world-endingly strong board you'd hope from a Think Fast.
The thing that's worth noting here as well is that this board should be stable. I say that as, it's always a bit of a sketchy thing to say it should be stable and ends up losing to a random fight here. But this board, in fact, should be stable. The prismatic augment, yes, you are going to be down to a certain extent, but you are also going to accelerate your curve in general. This comp can stay on level 6, like a lot of in-game boards. Back when this launched, it was way too broken. Did, in fact, stay on level 6 for the entire game, pretty much. On the other side, though, Salvi is going to be on that high roller. We've seen it many a times today already. We've seen it 2 games ago with Double 61 and Anila.
Something we haven't seen from almost any of our players coming into this championship. Lelouch has gone for Triforce 3, an augment that in a lot of discussions has been considered pretty dead. As Solo Gazang hits a Skarner 3, lots of stuff happening in this lobby.
Yeah, so this means there's going to be a shift in the way he's going to be playing this build different, right? Because he's going to be going over to playing around more free cost units like the Rengars, the Series, etc. of the world. Stuff like that is going to be... Is it just going to be interesting to follow? Because when we've seen build difference, been the Graves, the Neela, that's been the focus, right? So whether or not that's going to pay off for Lelouch, that's going to be something else. Right now, he started 90 HP, so has a little bit of a buffer to work with. So we are going to be seeing Solo Gazang here. We're talking about it on these Astrals, just trying to generate as much as possible. But looking at the augment selection here right now, and with the items in play as well, this looking like a Soifen's build to me.
It would certainly make a heck of a lot of sense, keeping those augments nice and generic. And of course, when you've got a lot of attack damage, you're getting a lot of benefit out of healing off that damage. Salvi, though, will take an L. They're currently down the bottom of the table anyway, so they're probably not too upset about that. As you said, we are in a situation where we might be seeing another very high-risk, high-roller situation developing much later on.
This is something that we brought up yesterday, early on at the beginning of the day. Given that it's now in the knockout stages of this championship once again, we're going to be seeing players, especially at the bottom half of those leaderboards, going for those more feast or famine compositions that are more difficult to execute, but have a much higher cap as a result.
So here we see an open spatula on the carousel. Noel kind of, walking around and thinking, do I need to or not? He's going to go for the cloak instead here in the spat. There's no open spats, but again, if there's anyone trying to look to play a mage composition, a guardian composition, that spat might go all the way through. It also could just go unpicked. Again, not necessarily a lot of transformative positions going on here, but Brick says, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice a bit of power right here, right now, most likely. But also worth noting here, Lelouch is streaking, so is Bricks. And as we can see right now, it's going to be an interesting one to follow here. And again, I want to touch this position from Doppel a little bit more as we are going to go over to the Lelouch's board. Again, I think that is totally fine because, again, that's what we've been talking about. It's going to be Varus, it's going to be Rengar, it's going to be Noon, it's going to be Silas. Those are going to be the units that he's going to be trying to build around for the most part. But the issue is the top end going to come out as highly as we think it should be? Because, again, you look at Noel here. hits an Idus 2 at 3-5, for example, right? He has just been accelerated by that Cluttered Mind.
We've got to, of course, bear in mind this is going to be the Prismatic Triforce, so we've got the built different buff, we've got the Triforce buff as well. These units should be a lot stronger than they appear on first blush up against Salvi at the bottom of the table. Lelouch is on a pretty big win streak. Unfortunately, the stars aren't quite there for the units right now, and Salvi, with a Giant Slayer on the Kaiser at the backline, is tearing through these units. They've got a bunch of bonus health, but it's not doing them any good at all. Varus building up a big head of steam, but for now, the win streak comes to an end, and this could be real bad news for Coco.
I mean, also, that's just like a casual Yasuo just thrown in there for good measure, right? From the
just for fun.
From the side of Salvi. Giant Slayer, whatnot, right? Not necessarily going to be that important here, but Lelouch, the spot, it's going to be pretty precarious because for him, the 4-1 angle is going to be very important here because if you can upgrade the Varus, you can upgrade the Rengar that he has now shipped away from the board, so I am running a little bit, but again, you need to choose these things because, again, he needs these units alive so they can, spend more time benefiting from the extra attack speed, all this type of good stuff, because he has kind of put himself in the spot where he might be down a Prismatic if he were to go for the traditional build difference situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, it feels like that loss was a hugely significant one because, yeah, if Lelouch has only presumably got a window of power with the 3 costs, no matter how many times you buff them in various different ways, presumably they can't stand up against a true late game board.
And I think as we're looking into Dasik's board, nowhere near the late game, but we can see already a little bit of struggle coming out from the Varuses. But as they're mostly uncontested by this Senna, I suspect Lelouch will be clocking a win here. As I say that, the Senna just absolutely nails the Varus in the forehead.
So worth noting here,
there's a Soraka!
Yeah, I was about to say that. So Dasik here, a lot of things going on this board actually as we are looking at it. So goes for the Earth's grab back, slams another Shimmer Scale. So double Shimmer Scale now. It does mean that the full-on vertical Shimmer Scale is very much a possibility right now. It could also just be the fact that we're going to be seeing a 5 Shimmer Scale into Saya transition. You saw the Archangel Staff, you saw the Rage Spell. It could just be a 5 Shimmer into Fall Dragon, depending on which way the roll down really is going to it's going to fall. Because at 53 HP, even though he does have the Soraka, he could be put under pressure if a lot of people are really going to spike here in 4-1.
Now, 4-1 is going to be a crucial breakpoint for a lot of these players. We've also seen Brix lose that win streak that carried him through most of Stage 3. So that is going to be an important inflection point, as you mentioned, Dasik and Lelouch are going to have to roll down to the stage and look for, finally, some usable boards.
Now, I just want to make a point here about where we are kind of with the standings. We have Dasik, Noel, and Salvi. They're all at the bottom, and they're all pretty much in the mid of the table. We're talking about our ability of our players to climb up in this game and the next game to contest for the title of EMEA champion. The 3 on the bottom right now are ones who are in really good position to do that. If they don't turn this around, then they won't have that chance.
And the more straightforward roll down that we're also going to continue, which is going to be this Dacia 2, right? Dawnbringer's Determination is going to be the one that we are going to be looking out for right now. And with the Dawnbringer in play here, it does mean that Dacia is very likely to stay alive, but the important inflection point, if you are going to be trying to go into a vertical Mirage here, is going to be the 6th Mirage, because on the 6th Mirage, you're going to get the second wave of healing coming through from the Dawnbringer. It's still going to be the same amount of healing, essentially, but it is going to come in twice, which is going to be such a massive thing here. And Brix has gone over and has made that mage carry, so we kind of did suspect, but again, you can see it's so hard for this Soraka, this Karma, to push for the healing from the Dawnbringer and the Soraka.
And it's always so obnoxious at the end of the round when you've only got a couple of units on the board and Soraka can focus all that healing around the end. Particularly with a comp like this where we've got the needlessly big gems stacking up as well. Very dangerous late game. And there you said it. If you're going to push towards Mirage 6, you have got the opportunity.
They are, like, all these options you can kind of make a case for, right? Because you want the Dacia to be like an execution menace. Do you want the Stand United for when you are going to be going into a more like flexible board? Or is it going to be the hard commit with the Mirage Crest? Worth noting again, even in the 4 Dragon scenario, Mirage Crest does allow you to have the 4 Mirage in play and put that Mirage Crest onto either Terra or onto Idus for that extension.
Disgusting healing.
For that extra healing, right? So many options here. He's going to be going for the Stand United, and to me that speaks that he's probably not going to be sticking towards this stage to like the Mirage angle for a long time. But level 9 here is going to be the next goal most likely, because this board should be stable enough, but it still is lacking that Idus.
Did notice the Brix picking up a 2-star Nala there, so we're keeping an eye out on how many shields are floating around us. Oh my gosh, we have been waiting for Solo to unleash the Siphon for a while, and it has more or less arrived. Not up to full itemization as of yet, but still getting the Siphon charging into the backline. And of course, with the Quincy's Rage Blade, we'll be building up, as long as they survive long enough, of course.
Nope.
No, well, never mind. Well, ultimately, they'll be building up to a big menace.
Yeah.
It's all down to Xiaoyu for the time being, who's doing a pretty good job, even with only 2.5 items.
But we're seeing this board from Dasik is absolutely incredible. If he's able to win streak through this, as Wida said, he has an absolutely massive potential for capping. Even if he wants to go towards like a 4-dragon board, each one of them gives you a full synergy. You get massive Stand United value, toss an Itis in there, you get to keep your Shimmer Scale items if you so are inclined. And now let's take a look at the rest of the augments that were picked during that round. Wida, something's caught your eye.
I'm really sad it's not Noel who took the Oasis, because, you know, maybe someday that was going to be the one that saved him, but I don't know.
You've been sitting on that one all weekend.
I have been very vocal about the fact that I really want Noel to pick Oasis just so I can make that joke. I try to. I know it's bad. I know it's horrible. Unlike the spot from Sally, right? Still has the triple loaded dice open. We saw this position specifically earlier on from double 61. If we're going to start seeing Salvi hold on to a Diana, it's going to be that massive chance to find those Neela free, which can be a massive way for him to elevate his board. And it's going to be Dasik losing here, as we do see that. And again, for Dasik, he's holding on to the gold because he has needed a big gem, and he still has 52 HP to work with his rocket taking as well.
It's extremely impressive to see that Salvi, essentially playing without a prismatic augment compared to the rest of the lobby, is still managing to keep things up. Yeah, well, they're not even bottom on the scoreboard anymore, and building up a win streak. You can only imagine how strong they're going to be when they actually make use of all those dice.
So the spat here is open again. Not going to be a high priority one. We've seen that already. The players are not going to prioritize that, especially because it's one cost. You know, the Salvi's going to be picking up the Yasuo. We saw earlier on he had a Yasuo already kicking, lying in wait there early on
Bricks
on
can
level
use
7.
this spat.
I mean,
He's already going Mage Spat 1. He's got another tier. Not going to go for it, though.
Ooh. It's gonna
Until the
tease us.
BF sword gets taken. He's got a 50-50.
Yeah, so it's a bit
You see? They know how to entertain these players.
So it's a bit of a weird one, because it can kind of be using one mage bet is relatively easy. Using two can kind of sometimes be a bit of a bait, where you end up like trying to go into a position where you might not want to use the second mage bet. You would rather have a different item, because at a certain point it becomes really hard for you to fit in, let's say, like 7 or 9 mages even into Lagoon board.
This board here from Lococo has picked up the Guardian Emblem, a familiar position for us here today, and has it on this Ao Shin. I suspect later on this is going to swap for an Acel.
And this is going to be our first heroic presence of the day. I mean, we have had, you know, us on the desk. That's quite the heroic presence. But in game, at least, we're going to see the first one coming through here, absolutely. So this Dacia's targeting is going to be continuously going on towards the front line here. And again, should buy enough time for this Ao Shin. But the question is whether or not we are going to be seeing these items move over to an Acel at some point. Especially because of the fact there's no mana generation outside the board for this Ao Shin, which means that one cast per fight really has to be massive. And it is not. Okay, it might just be enough, but again, if this would have been a little bit stronger, right, that would be a bit of a heavy downfall potentially. So with the duplicator on the bench, you know, a second Ao Shin coming through once you go level 8 here around like the dragons of 5-1, 4-7, whenever you really want to, that could become in massive. But again, as the game will, you know, progress and go on further and further and further, not having a mana regeneration item on an Ao Shin is going to be just quite hard.
I want to head over to Salvi's board and take a look at how he's doing. We saw that Lagoon building up earlier on. He's down to 22 HP. Not at contention for getting knocked out right now. Still has all 3 loaded dice, but one more loss in stage 5 will kill him.
I'm looking really closely at this Nyla, of course. We can see her dancing between the shields. Has to worry a little bit about being CC'd, but it's stealing away a lot of the Guardian power. We saw, of course, the big cast kill everyone before, but this time around it doesn't quite get the job done. I think it's going to be very tight here as to who actually gets the win. For Salvi, of course, at the very bottom, they get the win in, and they can start the long climb.
Absolutely crucial for him to stay in this game. And now we've hit the Treasure Dragon. You know what that means, chat. Take a look for that link in the chat. I'm just going to let our mods use the command and
right.
not tell you what it is. I trust them on this one.
So these are Neela items. Ruinous Hurricane can work. IE an option right now with the glove on the bench here, and even BT is not necessarily a horrible option. Either QSS could also be, you know, something. So a lot of options here, especially that's going to be really interesting to follow. I'm not necessarily sure how he's going to fully play this out. It could be a zone-free angle. I must admit, I am not too heavy on it. 1 dice down. That's going to be 2 ASOL, so 1 dice left here. Question is now, are you going to risk it? He is. He's not going to hit, though, but he will be able to now, you know, more or less naturally could potentially go into it. But again, he has his back against the wall, had to go for it right here, right now. But again, we're talking about this. Neela has her itemization, but it's a Neela 1, however. And that is going to be a big issue because, again, you kind of need that secondary character to kind of clean up the fights, especially because the supporting unit of the story is still a 1-star as well.
And no tank itemization either. Just as easy, Rod.
I mean, that's kind of everything you need. Sometimes Neela 2 found out that's going to be massive here. Gives up on the plan here. Knows he needs a stronger board all in all here. Just has to dodge that 8th. Just kind of stabilize himself in the middle of the standings.
All right, let's see what Noel has got for us here. We've got a pile of dragons and many friends to play with. You see, of course, Neela, as noted, now newly 2-star and minted with a full pocket of items. Really needs to hit the units when they're shielded to get that second cast, because a lot of this board is too tanky to deal with. Otherwise, Neela actually ends up falling there, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, Noel's spot here is just super strong, right? You have the cybernetic shell, you have the cybernetic uplink. That is so much extra HP. Not even think about the armor, think about the mana gain coming through, right? That is just absolutely massive, all things considered here. Salvi now, what can you go for? Like, it has to be that. It has to be a sorry too, and that might not even be enough here. Does get a defensive item now through the components of the Lagoon. Does have a Dragon Stone he can work with.
And a small point here, of course, this is great news for Brix and Sologasang. They're both below Salvi in the standings. If Salvi does go down in 8th, then that opens up a world of possibility for leapfrogging much further up the table.
This lobby is going to start accelerating the moment Salvi goes out. As the player pool decreases, the rate of the lobby increases. And we can see Brix is going to be real happy if Salvi gets knocked out because they're contesting each other's units and have been all game.
Let's see how they do it again, the 1v1. It's Sohm versus Sohm. Perhaps the reason why you couldn't find a Sohm is that it already found a new home over with Brix TN. And there we go. Parsley signed, sealed, and delivered. Salvi, get out of here. We're climbing some tables.
Yeah, look again here. As I was talking about before, this was in fact going to be a Siphon pivot coming through, I do believe, here. So it is strong, but with Salvi going out now as well, that means that someone like Brix, Sologasang, is going to be super important for them as he was holding on to that final and 5th spot for now, that is. But look at this for Solo, right? He's on 5 COUs for now, but it's a Nor. No, it's a Skarner 3, sorry. With the feed scope on it here should be really good to work with going forward here. Again, kind of like a bit of a thing where you could kind of consider like swapping it out for a different bruiser, like a Jack, something like that potentially in the future. But massive roll coming through here from Daisy. All these rolls here are going to be important. Needs to find those last couple of upgrades before he starts selling up again.
Oh boy. And of course, that was big with the needlessly big gem in the mix. That's going to be a big cut down in damage. But selling them all towards the end, so at least we've got the 50 in the mix up against Brix. Again, as was being said multiple times, is trying to climb up that table.
Maybe able to do so as well. I'm wondering if he's angling towards a later game pivot into something like an ASOL, as he does have that Mage Spat, does have that Evoker sitting there in the form of Zyra. He's dedicated so much time to, but in the meantime, Sohm is doing great with that Dragon Imperialist.
Yeah, that really has been the X factor in these couple of fights, right? Because it really does remove the small bit of time where Sohm has to try to like whittle away at the last bit of a target. And now another Mage Cap presents itself here, but this time it's a completed one, right? Which means that for someone like Brix, it might not make it through. Double, as we know, are on the Cannoneer still. Can take another Dark Lightning, but he's going to be going for it as a Rod Pull, just get the extra little bit of front line, you know, to try to take away the targeting from those somewhat squishy Cannoneers as they are going to try to work their way.
Still up.
And it's going to bounce off automatically as well. And this is
You're kidding.
and it might as well just be the Zoe itself. But again, do you really care about, like, quote-unquote, griefing someone here who doesn't further your own game plan? Because yes, you might take this, might, block out Brix. But if you don't gain anything from it, then what's the point even?
Well, I mean, further to the point again, we've got the two classes of players. The survivalists at the bottom of the standings right now, and the players fighting to be called EMEA champion. We have got ourselves, of course, a good setup here for Brix, currently on 6 Lagoon and 6 Mages.
And an open spat on top of it. He could go for the 7 mage angle if he wanted, doesn't need to, but having the extra flexibility of saying, okay, I still want to keep mages in, but I hate these units. I'm going to swap them out for something better. So he runs into double 61, still running that Cannoneer Namzi.
A little bit of resignation in the voice there, but I mean, I love to see it.
It's working really well.
I mean, Double has absolutely stepped the pedal to the metal, currently in 4th place, just behind the leading 3. They have a strong finish here. They'll be loving life.
Gross.
And I think they're going to be. The raw damage on display here is just ridiculous.
Yeah, again, if the next component coming through for Brix is going to be a tier, that is going to be pretty ridiculous. I am not going to lie. Look at the board here for Lekoko, and again, we're talking about gross. Look at the life totals right now. Like it's Brix just coasting away at the top, and then it's 6 HP between Solo Kasang and Lekoko in 2nd and 7th place as of right now. And these boards are all relatively similar in board strength.
And do remember again, Lekoko gave up their first position as a result of the last game, so they no longer have any safety net. If they do go down in low place here, their position at the top is far from assured.
And Rengar Free has been hit from the Lucius. So I was talking about, these timings are super important now. If he is going to try to stay in, he got to go up against Lekoko's massive Guardian board though.
Top 2 players.
Has no money left in the board here, but that Rengar starting to pop off. The built different, the Triforce, plus the Knife's Edge doing so much for this carry, lands onto the backline Asol, and it may just be enough as the Varus still uncontested firing away, and Lelouch survives for another day.
Look at the right side now. That's going to be the most important thing. Solo Kasang survives, so the lowest HP player is going to be that now. Double loses, the Coco at 8. These are so close. We're going to go in with it's going to be stage 6, but we have 7 players alive. I mean, I don't know when was the last time I've seen this, to be honest.
It's so volatile right now. Lelouch is at the top of the standings with 25 points. Coco and Noel behind with 22. Double 61 and closest contender with 20. Anyone below that is really chancing it here. Dasik, the biggest dark horse contender right in the middle of the pack, would need to almost certainly hit up a big first here to contend for the title.
Interested to see where Dasik is going to go with this board. His economy is in fantastic shape. 54 experience towards that level 9 and 50 gold remaining.
It could just be go to level 9 here and then just put in the Yasuo. And then you have 4 Mirage, 7 Shimmer Scale, because so much of your combat power right now is tied to these items. However, there it is. The Yasuo 2 has been picked up, but again, quote-unquote, only a 30% damage increase is going to be the name of the game right here, right now. But again, with a double Seeks, you have an Ionic Spark and Nasus. Very great items here. And again, look at the value of the Stand United towards the left side of your screen. This is going to be an absolutely massive fight here. Again, so much on the line right now.
Everyone down, out of gold, but not out of contention just yet. Solo Kasang with that Soifin board, as you mentioned, but it's running up against Lekoko's massive dragon in the back with the Guardian Spatula pumping out as much damage as it possibly can. The front line not as fragile as you would like, yet nonetheless, the Idis will fall in a few more hits from Xiao Yu, now tearing at the backline. Lekoko's Asol doing as much as it can. One more ult, the shield, not enough, and Lekoko will fall.
Yeah, and Dasik is out now or as well here. How much is the overkill going to be for Lekoko? It is going to be Dasik moving into the 6th position here, so it's still going to be in an okay position going into the final game of the day here. However, someone that is still trying to elevate themselves into a title contender is going to be double 61, however, with 4 HP remaining right now. And a board that is lacking a prismatic combat augment, to be quite frank, right? This is going to be incredibly hard for him to fully get in there, because when you get the thing fast, and it really helps you, and it kicks in early in the game, you get the free stars, you put so much pressure on the lobby, but that was not the case this time around.
Difficult, if not impossible. We'll see if our world champion can pull it out here in game number 5.
All right, up against Brix, who is the player at the top of the lobby. No win streak to speak of, but certainly has evokers aplenty. Do, of course, remember the frontline situation is not so good as Nala gets immediately annihilated. There will be no more damage coming from the back, or from the front roller, but from the back, the tides are calling. Lullaby lulling us into the deep sleep of death.
Top 4 has been decided. Brix leading the pack, followed by Noel, Solugasang, and Lelouch.
That's good news, of course, at least for Dasik, that Double 61 doesn't get any further ahead of them. But yeah, as you were saying, Ben, you know, Dasik was almost being taken out of any possible contention for the title. Lelouch, it's going to be a very tight top 4.
At this point in time, I mean, right now for Lelouch, all he needs is a top 4 just to ensure that he cannot get knocked out of like even 5th position here, right? This final fight for him most likely is going to again. We've seen this time and time again. This Imperialist from Brix has been so massive.
You're going to be watching onto that zone. We talked about it all weekend. The Rengar specializes in ripping through this Lagoon backline, but he himself gets ripped to shreds by the Soam in the back. Varus, the only carry left remaining, but not for long. Lelouch will fall.
And now we have the final fight here. Noel and Solugasang off this round here. Solo, if he takes a loss, he will be going out. He will be sent packing here. But Shuyu and the Siphon are still going to be put into place, and Noel will take a loss here. Solo keeps on fighting for his life.
This has been an incredible game for Germany. Solugasang fighting out from literally the last position on the table overall against some incredible competition, fighting to try and stay out of the spot of death. Number 8 position, the only one that will not have a chance to play at the Global Championship, and Solo is firing on all cylinders.
The bottom 2 players right now are the top 2 players on the scoreboard.
So Brix picked up a single component there. Does still have that spat open, I do believe. So that's going to be a Cavalier emblem coming through in just a second here. But look at this board from Noel, right? Like now he finally has those upgrades that he needs here. It's quite hard for him to really create a better board. Again, the big issue is the lack of a mana generation item on the Aeoshin. Yes, there is going to be the Cybernetic Uplink, which is fantastic. But even with a Spear of Shojin here, we'll probably be even better. The first cast off this Aeoshin is going to be super important.
Let's see how long it's going to take for the Thunder and Lightning to come a-calling. We have got, of course, Brix going to be pumping out the damage across. We can see already just the individual cast from the Soam doing a ton of damage instead. The silence is going to cause us to take a little bit longer. The Hextech Gunblade kicks in and down goes the Soam. Right, the Lightning, but we've still got dragons on the board. The Archangel is ticking up for another earth-shattering kaboom, but it's taking so long to get there.
And somehow this Silas has survived for ages, but no longer. His age is at an end. All 3 competitors still in this, all 3 within 1 loss of knockout.
At this point here, Noel like almost just rolling to try to block some of the units that the other players might want to just have them in his shop, right? Because he has no other applications for this gold, to be completely honest, right? He is going to get extra gold from the Diamond Hat, but not item scales with the gold that you currently have sitting in your bank account. And we kind of saw how had the Soam had a little bit better aim, it would have been executed before the first cast came off, just due to the nature of that Shroud here.
All right, we'll see how they end up doing. For Noel, of course, they are looking to contest for the title of champion. The other 2 players are just trying to make sure they get a chance at all at the Global Championship. It's a strange situation to be sure, but it's one filled with murder and dragons, and those, of course, the best things.
Now that Aeoshin finally firing away against Solugasang, uncontested, unbowed, unbroken in the backline, and it looks very much like this game is going to Noel, as there goes the Terra. Xiaoyu, try as she might, will not be victorious today. Noel takes the lobby.
And that is the contention being made. Noel has thrown down the gauntlet and said, I feel like I am ready to be EMEA champion, and this game proved it.
I mean, we might just about be in November right now, but who knows, maybe Christmas will come early for